Terry, I'm going to let them know. So I'm going to step out front for a minute.
And probably would be a good stopping point for the defense.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, sir. Get another batch of photos in.
Your Honor, Investigator Crawford had just looked through these, and we took the break, so I had not asked him if he recognized them nor about the defendant evidence.
Is it easy for you to keep like a 115, 1, 2, 3? The only issues, I just don't want a large exhibit to be collected.
Okay.
So if you put numbering like 115.1, 115.2 works for you, we can do it that way as long as it's separate.
I understand. So I did already, during our break, I numbered these. They would be exhibits 115 to 123, and there's a collective in it that I did do 116.1, 116.2, 116.3. So I agree with that. It gets confusing when I'm collecting exhibits like
It gets too big, it makes it hard.
you can't even, yeah, that's a good point. But I did number these.
What was the last number?
123.
Yes, ma'am. Bring it through, please. Please be seated.
So, Investigator Crawford, remind us where we're at. I had just shown you photos after I'd asked you questions about the defendant's cell phone download. Do you recognize these photos?
I do.
Are these photos that were taken? Well, let me ask you this. Let's go individually. Do you recognize what's in this photo?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
It's a picture of the back of the cell phone device collected from 1943 Ashburn Court, which was identified as Jason Chen's cell phone device.
And was this a photo that was taken when it was in the possession of the Chattanooga Police Department before download?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I ask that that be State's Exhibit 115. These records, there are approximately 11 pages. What are those?
It's a excerpt from the call history log, specifically the timeline area of the forensic cell phone extraction from Jason Chen's cellular device.
Does this reflect the calls that he was making, receiving, or missing?
Correct. It's a call log. It will show the date and time that a reported call occurred. It'll show the direction of the call, whether it's incoming or outgoing. It'll show potentially what type of communication it was. It'll show the reported numbers between the calling number or the number that was called or that was calling in. And in the device, if the number was identified via contact, it will have a generated name associated with that as well.
You recognize that as records taken from Mr. Chen's cell phone download?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that this be State's Exhibit 116, 116-1 through 116-11.
So moved.
And the rest of these photos, in vague terms, can you tell the jury what the rest of the photos represent?
This photograph is a photograph that was recovered off the cellular device in question we were talking about. It depicts that one.
Let's not, the jury will see it. Just in vague terms, are those photographs from Jason's phone and coordinating data?
Correct. They are phones recovered from the device along with the extraction data as well.
Photos that came from the device?
That is correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd ask that these be admitted. It would be 17, 18, 117, 118, 119, 120, 21, 22, and 23.
So moved.
All right. So, behind you, this you testified, 115, this is the cellular device that was retrieved from that red box in the bedroom at Jason Chen's parents' home.
Yes, that's correct.
This is what you performed the cell phone download on.
That cell phone download was performed on that. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you Exhibit 116-8. Is this a page of the call logs from Jason Chen's phone?
Yes, that is correct.
And would you agree it begins down here on this page on 11/19/2022
Yes, that's correct.
and goes up on this page to 11/24/2022 at 6:42 p.m.?
Yes, that's correct.
And would you be able to tell us based on looking at this if anything had been deleted or not?
No, not based on looking at this now.
Do you recognize any phone numbers of significance on this call history?
Yes.
And which phone number is that?
At the two up from the bottom, there is the phone number 423-664-2024. That is going to be the victim's cellular phone number.
423-664-2024 is Jasmine Pace's phone number.
Yes, that's correct.
And can you see the last call that Jasmine and Jason had?
Yes, it would be on November 22nd, 2022 at 11:56 a.m.
That would be 11:56 a.m. Is that what you
Yes,
said?
that's correct.
And then what does this number over here represent?
That's going to be the call duration, so how long those two lines were connected and potentially conversations happening.
1 hour and 10 minutes and 4 seconds.
Correct.
And then over here, what does received mean?
Received means that this cellular device received that communication, meaning that the number associated here on the right, the 1-423-664-2024, called this device, and there was a connection time for 1 hour and 10 minutes and 4 seconds.
State's Exhibit 117. Describe for the jury, even though they've seen photos, at this point, describe for the jury where Mr. Chen, if that's Mr. Chen, and where Mr. Chen is at in this photo.
Based on the photo, you can observe the side profile of Mr. Chen, his left-hand side. You can see the picture of the drapery that's against the wall that's affixed, which is consistent with the same drapery that was there during the night we executed the first search warrant. The only thing that's not consistent in this photograph is that the bed appears to be in a different location at this point up against the wall.
What is metadata?
Metadata is associated data with pictures or different things that it's actually the data makeup of that image or device that could show potentially what cellular device, for a photograph, could show what cellular device potentially took that photograph, times, days, And sometimes if GPS location or location data is available or allowed to be available, it'll also give a timestamp and a estimated location of where that photograph was taken.
Is there metadata that's attached to every photo that you take with your phone?
Yes.
Is it accessible on a forensic download?
Yes.
Was there metadata attached to this photo?
Yes.
States Exhibit 118. So most of the jurors probably have not seen this before. Can you just describe what we're looking at here? Would you like to?
We talked about the Celebrite program, which is the forensic tool used to extract the data off the cellular device. They actually have a program to allow us to read that data as it's extracted. So you will see at the top that it states extraction report, Apple iPhone, and Celebrite. This is how that, when you're viewing it on a computer, that you would actually see at the top of the screen. In it, it's going to show that specifically this photograph's metadata is portrayed with the thumbnail of the actual photograph itself. You will see here the name that the device is given that photograph. Essentially, it's going to show the location of where it identified that photograph being located on that device. On the right-hand side, additional info, it's going to identify the size of the photograph in terms of how much data that it takes up on the cellular device. Then it's going to give these times here. Specifically, it will show created date, modified date, and assessed date. Those can be different depending on what's done with that photograph. If it's edited, it can show different things, or even if there's success, whether it was pulled up in a different program or if it was done anything else. And this down here, the source file, once again shows the location of where it's stored on the device.
When was this photo created?
This photo was created, where it's identified as being created on November 20th, 2022 at 9:18 p.m. Now this says UTC plus 0. So essentially, at this time period, UTC, Universal Time Zone, it's basically, it would be, I think at this time it would actually be 5 hours. It would be closer to 4 p.m. It would be 4:18 because it doesn't have the conversion for the time at that point.
So the time's not exactly right on this, but the date would be based on UTC.
Correct.
Okay. Is this a photo that you located on Jason Chen's cellular device?
Yes, that is correct.
This is Exhibit 119. Pretty obvious what we see here.
Correct. So, hand holding the startlings with the identifiable bracelet.
Was metadata attached to this photo in Jason Chen's phone?
Yes, it was.
Again, without the details, because now the jury sort of knows what metadata looks like, sort of summarize for them what this information means, especially now that we sort of have two separate, on the right-hand side, we have additional file info with items below it, but then we have metadata below that. Can you explain that to the jury?
Yes, I was explaining the metadata that can be associated a lot of times with photographs. In this forensic report, it identified that essentially the camera that took the photograph is an Apple. Camera model is identified as an iPhone XR as being the camera model. The capture date, which essentially this photograph was taken, was July 23rd, 2021 at 4:51 and 11 seconds p.m. It's identified its pixel resolution at the time that the photograph was taken. Also the typical resolution on screen up to 72 units per inch. And it showed it had a horizontal or normal fixation picture.
Why would that information above that show that it was created, modified, and accessed on 11/28/2022?
This would show its actual physical creation date at the bottom, as identified via the forensic report. At the top, it's essentially showing that this photograph has been created, modified, and accessed at a different time. It's identifying that This is the original data capture of when this actual picture was taken. And essentially this photograph was potentially imported, sent, uploaded. It was placed in another program. And it actually identifies the source file here, where it says JSON Mobile Library SMS, which is a formatting of text messages. And it shows that it was placed in as an attachment. And then it has its metadata associated specifically with the photograph.
Were you able to locate on Jason Chen's phone photos in his photo file that were screenshots of text messages?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell the jury about those text messages?
Yes, I observed multiple screenshot photographs, text message conversations between Jason Chen and the phone number of that of the victims. It identified the phone number at the top of the photographs. It said 423-664-2024. There are multiple screenshots that go all the way back to, I believe, August of 2021 to, I think the latest screenshot goes to, with the time depicted in the actual photograph of where it has a timestamp when something was sent or received, is November 23rd of 2022.
Do you know of any reason why Mr. Chen had screenshot photos of his conversation with Jasmine Pace?
I can tell you that the actual text conversations were not recovered from the device. Did not recover these text conversations between Jasmine Pace's cellular device and Jason Chen's. The only communications that we observed were the screenshots. So the screenshots were the only evidence left over of the content of this text message.
What does it mean that you couldn't find the actual conversations themselves, only the screenshots?
I reviewed the contents of the forensic extraction to include the timeline, which essentially is a timeline of all activities on a device. So whether it's a log that's turning the phone on, your phone communicates with towers all the time, provides location data. Also, when you're using the internet, it provides location data, essentially website searches, it shows text message calls, all those things. I reviewed the timeline, I did not observe it. I went back through the messages portion of the forensic report to find these conversations within the device. I also reviewed other potential ways, such as call logs and things, and trying to find any ways that these were associated with that device. Like I said, that sometimes things can be recovered in the forensic extraction. Sometimes it has the ability to recover things that were deleted, and a lot of times it is not. So the only evidence at the time we had of the actual content were the text messages, because the actual text message were gone.
States Exhibit 121. Do you have an iPhone?
My wife does.
Do you have experience with iPhones?
I do.
Have you worked, when it comes to downloads, have you worked extensively with iPhones?
Yes, they're about 50% of the phones we deal with.
If an iPhone sends a message to an iPhone, what color is the text?
An iMessage, the way it's communicated in an iPhone would come up as a blue colored device. And if it's transmitted in green, it means either that device, the iMessage communications were not occurring. That could be for different reasons, such as the device was on, or that device that they're communicating with is not an iPhone itself, and it's an Android style platform, which then you're not able to communicate via iMessage. You're communicating through a different platform in terms of SMS and MMS text messages.
What does it mean that, did Jasmine Pace have an iPhone?
Yes, per family's reports and our cell phone reports.
Did Mr. Chen have an iPhone?
Yes, that's correct.
What does it mean that these texts are green?
It means that iMessages weren't allowed to be completed at that time, essentially. Whether it means the device changed or that device didn't have the capabilities of communicating. So it could be a few things.
Based on other messages in the phone, were you able to determine what date these photos, the photo and the text were sent?
Correct.
What date?
It identifies, do you want to have the pointer?
I'm sorry, I keep taking it from you.
The date itself, it's going to say Wednesday at 11:46 a.m. The way that it would identify it, essentially, if we were to look at the metadata, it would identify potential creation date or access date, which would further give us the year range as well. So even though it's only saying Wednesday at 11:46, based on the screenshot, the metadata would show us the year that it was created in, essentially. So it shows Wednesday, 11:46, and based on my knowledge of the metadata, that would refer to 2022, and that Wednesday, 2022, 11:46 a.m. based on the metadata would be November 23rd, 2022.
Thank you, Investigator Crawford. One second, Judge. Can you read the text messages there?
Yes.
And not the top, the two green ones.
Two rings starting down below. Says, good morning, slept like a baby, question mark. Made myself a matcha. Next one, starting at Wednesday at 3:03 p.m. Hey, are we still good for dinner tonight, question mark. And it says red directly under it.
Based on the location of that photo and those text messages, who were those sent from?
Based on how they were captured from the device, it appears they were sent from Jason Chen's cellular device to that of Jasmine Pace's cellular device.
Because that's Jasmine's phone number at the top.
Correct. That's Jasmine's phone number associated at the top. It just doesn't have her contact name.
States Exhibit 122. Does this person look like Jasmine Pace?
It's Jasmine Pace.
Do you recognize that location?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
That is the bathroom located in apartment 210 at 110 Tremont Street.
And was there metadata associated with this photo?
Yes, there were.
Can you just again briefly explain to the court, to the jury, what that metadata indicates?
Essentially, in this metadata, it's identifying created modified dates of 11/16, 2022 at 2:02 a.m. It once again shows where that photo is documented being taken from, and then you're going to see the pixel resolution and orientation as the picture was taken.
All right, while we're talking about cell phones, who requested Jasmine's cell phone records from Verizon?
The Chattanooga Police Department.
And how is that done?
Originally, with Jasmine Pace's cell phone records, we contacted Verizon. Verizon has certain requirements for exigent circumstances to provide those records without a search warrant in place. We applied for exigent, we filled out an exigent form, applied it, gave it to Verizon, and they granted us exigency based on their requirements. So Verizon then sent us Jasmine Pace's phone records based on the exigency at the time.
Two documents, Investigator Crawford. Do you recognize those documents?
Yes, I do.
What are those?
The first one is a copy of the emergency situation disclosure, the exigent circumstance form I was disclosing. It's filled out. I filled out the form. I filled out the form to the best knowledge and information. And signed the form and faxed that form to them. The second documentation is from Verizon, certifying the records that we received from them in regards to Jasmine Pace's phone number are certified to the best of their, they're custodian of records and they're certifying those records.
Your Honor, I'd ask that these be the statements to exhibits. One is the 902 affidavit from Verizon.
Is the next one 124?
Yes, sir. I'll make the Verizon emergency situation disclosure 124 and the affidavit from Verizon certifying the records 125.
124.
Looking at this certification from Verizon, is this something that they typically send to verify that the records they've sent are in fact what they are claiming to be?
Typically, we also request them to certify them as well, typically before purchases.
Okay. And can you see that there is a Verizon case number on that sheet of paper?
That's correct.
All right. You see this jump drive?
Yes.
I'm going to pop this jump drive into drive showed up on the laptop?
Yes.
All right, I just opened, will you verify that I just opened the jump drive that's in the side of the computer?
Yes, you do.
And do you recognize what is on that jump drive?
Yes, there's a folder for the associated Verizon case number along with the name certification. There is also an Excel sheet for cell site CDR, current 4G VoLTE data with the associated number with Jasmine Pace. There's also a certification of records for the associated case number for Verizon. And then the final Excel spreadsheet is for SMS content associated with phone number 423-664-2024 and the associated dates that we requested.
And this, there's a number here that says certification. Does that number match the number from Verizon and the affidavit from Mark Brand?
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that these records be admitted to the next exhibit.
The jump drive is up
Yes, Your Honor.
to 126.
Okay. At some point after all of this, were you notified of a discovery by the owners or operators of the Tremont Apartments?
Yes, I was.
What was that contact?
On January 5th, I was in contact with the managing staff at the Tremont Apartment, Tremont Lofts. I had a conversation with the courtesy officer, Officer Clemens. After our original search warrant and after the case unfolded, where we arrested Jason Chen and found Jasmine Pace, I knew that potentially at some point they may reclaim that apartment. Sometimes apartments will, kick people out for breaking lease agreements and such. I advised them if such were to happen, if they could contact me, I'd like to do another walkthrough of the apartment, just to do a final walkthrough of some sort. I talked to them. They actually called me back a little over a month later when they notified me that they were actually doing a renovation of the apartment. Due to their wording was because of the extensive amount of cleanup it was going to cost, they were actually just going to renovate the entire apartment. They notified me that that process had started, and they provided me consent to go back into that apartment. Subsequently that evening, I called the crime scene. I wanted them to come back out and potentially redocument it after if something else were to be found or located. Also, myself and Detective Seach responded, and the courtesy officer of that apartment complex, Jason Clemens, responded as well to allow us further access to it because I requested once they provided that they had located potential items of evidentiary value to us, I requested that they stop until we had the ability to properly document those items. So they granted it and locked the apartment. I responded that evening just after 5 p.m. where then I did another walkthrough. I located other pieces of evidence within that residence.
Had they begun to remodel, renovate that residence at the time that you arrived?
Yes, they had.
Mr. Crawford, if you don't mind, let's do those photos. You recognize those photos?
Yes, I do.
Is this an accurate representation of what Mr. Chen's apartment looked like when you returned after the apartment complex called you to tell you about potential evidence they had found?
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, this would be exhibits. I'd have to exhibit 127-1 through 127-17. This is exhibit 127-1. Investigator Crawford, if you can, again, just instruct the jury as to what we're looking at in this photo at this point.
Yes, this is a photograph from essentially standing within the bathroom area looking back into the main bedroom or the single bedroom of that apartment. You can tell based on the other photographs that you've seen at this point that the flooring is different and items have been removed. At this point you can see the subflooring, you can see a mattress pad and other objects that have been removed from the bathroom. That's the actual bathroom sink there as well.
Sorry, I'm remembering these, Your Honor. 127-2. What do we have here?
This is going to be the carpeted section from the bedroom. This is going to be the bathroom area leading into the bedroom. This will be the left-hand side. In earlier photographs of the original execution of the search warrant, the bed would actually have been located in this area right here.
So is this evidence that you did not find when you were in the apartment on the 28th of November?
That's correct.
Because the bed was there.
There was a bed placed over top. The other things that are different this time, At the time that the search warrant was executed, it appeared that the lights that were placed in there were aftermarket of some sort. They had a light of hue to them. It was not a very well lit apartment. So a lot of things we did by way of flashlight at the time. Once they reclaimed the apartment, they put new lights in there for the assistance of renovation. So it was a lot brighter. I could actually observe a lot more things at this point in time than having to use just a flashlight and then lighting the apartment. So we did originally look under the bed for potential items of evidence. In this picture with the lighting as such, it's obviously more clear that there is a dark discoloration at this point. That night, myself and crime scene investigators did not identify that.
And did it also come to your attention through other evidence that Mr. Chen's bed before 11/23/2022 was not in the position it was when the search warrant was executed?
Correct. When I re-entered the apartment after being granted by the apartment management to go back in and further process that scene with the well-lit lighting, I observed a few different things. Obviously, the dark discoloration was different than I originally observed. Not different, but I didn't observe it based on the lighting. Another thing is I could tell, originally I remember we talked about the potential, the splatter of some sort of an unknown substance. There's actually just above this picture, there's an oil stain a few feet off the ground that runs the length of it. I knew through investigative experience, through personal experience being a homeowner, that the length of it was consistent with the top of where your headboard meets the wall. When you sit up in bed, it's involuntary, but it happens. You rub your head against the back of the wall and an oil stain begins to build up there, especially for how long potentially you had that bed or that item to place at that location. I observed that on the wall as upon entry, and instantly you will see in this area, back behind what this is actually the tile that was taken from the bathroom area. It's just the bottom, the mortared section of the bottom of the tiles has been filled back and left here. There's going to be the original bed frame still in that room. Most all the items were taken out by the family before the apartment was reclaimed. And then certain items were left there, so they were going to eventually get rid of that bed frame, but it was still in place during our discovery, which the bed frame itself, I observed it, the headboard, to be consistent with the oil stain that I saw on the wall.
And then the jury's already seen Exhibit 117. This was a photo you located on Jason's phone, correct?
Yes, that would have been, I did not observe that photograph particularly until after this secondary going back to the scene, due to there was approximately almost 10,000 images in the cellular device.
What is the blue matter that you can see coming out from under the carpet?
That's going to be the padding between the subfloor and the actual carpeted area. If you're not familiar, some carpet has it built in. Some, the way you lay carpet down, obviously you don't carpet directly on the subflooring because it'll be hard and not as comfortable to walk on. This is going to be the padding for the bottom of the carpet that was in place prior to them starting to cut some of the other areas out.
And underneath the blue padding would have been what?
Underneath the blue padding would have been the subflooring itself, the wood.
State's Exhibit 127-3. Explain to the jury what we're seeing here.
This is going to be the carpet section as it's pulled back. You can see I pointed out a reddish brown color, a discoloration in the carpeted area where the bed was placed earlier during our first search of the apartment. After the carpet was further peeled back, you can see a larger reddish-brown discoloration that's consistent with blood. And you can see that discoloration also then seeps directly back into the carpet or to the padding as well.
Based on your experience as a homicide investigator, what does that substance look like to you?
Blood.
State's Exhibit 127-4. Just a closer up photo.
Yes, that's correct, with markers in place to show the size of the section itself.
Were those markers placed there by the crime scene unit?
Yes, by my request.
Did they collect that item?
Yes, they did.
State's Exhibit 127-5.
It shows the carpet padding as it's been pulled up to further reveal the suspected blood that has now seeped through the carpet, the padding, and onto the subflooring itself. You'll see the two major sections where it seeped all the way down to the wood section itself.
State's Exhibit 127-6.
It is another photograph of the subflooring from a different angle. This is actually the other side of it, with markers to give size and relevance.
State's Exhibit 127-13.
At this point, you're going to see the bed now fully assembled. So the bed was there, the bed frame was there, the mattress was still there. Myself and crime scene investigators are requested that we put the bed back together to see if we could further depict the details of what happened, during this incident. After putting the bed frame back together, we then placed it on the wall in the area that I believed the potential long-term use of that bed frame to be used based on the discoloration of oil stains on the wall, which then it made it more consistent with the blood pattern located on that date. We inspected that bed frame further. It was disassembled. We inspected the bottom of that bed frame to see if potentially could we rule out that bed frame was up against the wall and someone was stuffed under there. We didn't see any blood transfer to the underside of that bed frame. The only blood transfer that we observed was on the side of the frame that's consistent with somebody being placed on this side of the bed.
All right, now we're seeing what you've been describing in 127-17. Can you just explain that to the jury briefly?
Yes, you can see it more clearly here. In this picture, it looks similar to a shadow, but it's actually from this section here, just above here, is going to be dark discoloration that's consistent with like oil stains from hair, body, and things like that, such as touch that you normally will have. As you can tell, as the bed frame falls off, so does the dark discoloration, and it does such in the other way as well. So it's very consistent with the bed frame in place and that bed being placed there for an extended period of time.
127-11, just a further, a more distant photo of the entire bed as you put it together there in the bedroom.
Yes, that is correct.
This would be exhibit 127-16, just from the other side of the bed. Again, the same markings where you pointed out before, wear and tear on the wall.
Correct. And the difference here is you can actually now see the shadow that's created from the bed in the light, this dark strip here. You can see like how it gets darker here, and it's not, this is not a shadow, this is an oil stain on top of here. Just to show, and to be honest, most of it's concentrated on this side of the bed frame, where it would be typical if a single person resided there, that you'd only have one side. Most people have the side of the bed that they typically pick, especially if you have a significant other and you sleep there every night. It's consistent with that with a single person, single residence.
And then lastly, 127-10, you mentioned that there was what looked like discoloration that resembled blood on the bed frame. Can you explain where this photo was taken?
Yes, this is going to be on the side of the bed frame. When we were looking at the picture of the bed itself fully assembled, it would be on the left-hand side about halfway up. There's the dark reddish brown discoloration on the fabric of the bed frame that is consistent with blood.
Your Honor, may we approach approach.
Ladies and gentlemen, almost noon. I understand lunch is being set up in the jury room now. We'll take our lunch break at this point. It's 5 minutes, it's 12. Let's try to resume the trial at 1 p.m.